Well, good morning everybody. This is the English guy in Mexico. It's the 10th of January 2017 and here on the Hacienda we've actually had the first of a couple of really cold nights. I'm in northern Mexico here on my 10 acres and our summer temperatures are up around 30 degrees centigrade every single day. Winter temperatures are still very good at 20 degrees every day, but because I'm at altitude, I'm at 5,000 feet above sea level, the nights suddenly get extremely cold in January and February, and I've noticed that. I've been here 3 years now, and last 2 or 3 nights we've suddenly been bumping around zero, i.e. almost freezing. It's almost midday and our temperatures are only up to 16 degrees, which you should get up to 20 today. Anyway, the problem was everything's been growing really well here. The sorghum, the oats, even the bamboo, everything that I'm trying now appears to be working, but I kept losing my fruit trees, or half of my fruit trees, during January and February when we suddenly got a very sharp frost. Well, last year I experimented with a straw bale garden. Cut a long story short, I've got 11 animals and I bought a couple of straw bales last year, and the animals didn't really like it. I bought sorghum, which is pretty cheap here, at about $2.50 per bale, but they didn't really like it, so I ended up building this small straw bale garden. Now we're in January, and as I say, we've had 3 nights now where the temperatures have been bumping around zero, and I've still got tomatoes growing. There's a tiny little bit of damage right on the very outside of some of these tomato leaves, but I've still got quite a bit of tomatoes in the middle there. In fact, I think right down the other side there I've just spotted some ripe ones that I need to get in and pull out. So from never having grown a tomato in my whole life, I've suddenly managed to get tomatoes to even grow through the winter in the open. Yes, I've got my shade cloth over the top, which may be keeping a tiny bit of heat in here during the night, but certainly I think there's a little bit more to it, and it suddenly dawned on me that it's these 4 straw bales, sorghum bales, that I had last year. We don't get a lot of rain here, so I'm guessing they are fully conditioned. It's taken a while to condition them. Urine and roughly 1 day of rain, the equivalent of 1 hour of rain possibly every month. We're on the edge of the desert here, and I've suddenly realised that maybe it's the straw bales that are keeping the tomatoes going through the winter. So then as I've said, I had the problem with the fruit trees. I've been planting fruit trees around the edges of my property, but they all seem to struggle. I mean, that's another, I can't remember what that, I think that's a cherry over there, and there's figs there, and they've been there over a year and they're still only, what, half a metre high. Plus I may lose them in the cold. Anyway, I went out and I suddenly realised if the straw bales were working for the tomatoes, then the straw bales should work for the fruit trees. So I rang up the local forage guy here, and he said he's got 50 bales cheap. It was a mixture of corn, which I'm not overly happy with because they're very, very light, and I'm not sure that they're holding the heat in very well on the fruit trees. But after 3 nights, I honestly don't think, apart from a little bit of the outside of those guavas, that I've lost a couple of leaves there. I think the majority, I mean, these guavas here, I can't see any damage at all on them apart from a bit of insect damage. So just to explain fully what I'm doing with these straw bales, I'm going to use these later on in the year. Once we get past the last frost, which is usually in February, I'm going to use these as a series of small vegetable gardens. My soil here is pretty bad, and it just occurred to me, having watched a lady called on YouTube, I think she's called HT Survival. She explains how you condition these by putting nitrogen, which I think she uses powdered nitrogen, but I mean for me it's a lot easier just to use urine. I think human urine's about 11% nitrogen and it's in a liquid form already. So I've been putting just a little cup of urine on each of these bales every morning. I collect my urine during the day and during the night in plastic containers in the house, and then I try to put about half a pint to now these have only been here 3 days, so I haven't quite done all these bales yet, but I do between half a pint and 3/4 of a pint per day per bale, or the top of the middle of the bale. And also I've got a small sprinkler hose. I've only just cracked the faucet very, very gently, so that literally you get these tiny little sprinkles of water, which basically I just move around during the day just to dampen the top. And I was really surprised, because this morning I brought out the thermometer. It's actually a meat thermometer, so I've had to kind of calibrate it myself in terms of, it starts off at 60 degrees centigrade, which is the cooking temperature for steak, and strangely enough that is actually the cooking temperature of a fully conditioned compost pile. Well, I didn't want to give them full blast on the actual conditioning at 60, because I want these to last 2 months. Then I'm going to condition them for the gardens. So I've calibrated it myself on the left hand side. I'm pretty sure the air temperatures are currently, as I've shown you, is about 15, so I'm guessing that is about 20 because it was in the sun. And if I just put this probe into any one of these damp bales, remember they've been out all night in almost 0 temperature, hopefully you should see that zooms up to what I think it's moving slowly. Yep, here it goes. And that, I think, is about 30 degrees. In other words, if you look at the dial, it starts off at 60 at the top, it's obviously 0 at the bottom, halfway must be 30. So I'm pretty convinced that these bales, after only 3 days being here with a tiny bit of water sprinkled on them and a little bit of urine, these bales are holding 30 degrees. And I think that is what is saving my fruit trees. So the answer was pretty much staring me in the face all this time. Instead of losing half of these fruit trees, I'm pretty sure I'm going to save all these, and then a little bit later in the year turn them into a vegetable garden. Bye for now.